Hello, and welcome to our instructional video on how to create a basic estimate in your Pro Estimator account by Web-Est. After you've logged into your Pro Estimator account, on the left sidebar, select New Estimate. You'll be taken to the customer information page. There's nothing mandatory on this page, but we do recommend you at least enter a name for easier lookup at a later date. In this example, I'll select a pre-existing customer, and the fields will be populated. Notice it says there's two estimates linked to this customer. Changes to the customer data will be reflected on all of their estimates. What this means is that if you update a phone number or update an email address, for example, any existing estimates for this customer will be updated as well, so that if you ever revisit them, you have the correct contact information. If you ever see this and notice that you have the wrong customer selected, you will simply select New Blank Customer to clear the fields without affecting the existing database for the customer selected. Next, we'll move to the vehicle information page. There are several ways to access a vehicle's database for writing the damage estimate. You can enter in a license plate and the state that plate was issued in and select the decode button. You can enter in a 17-digit VIN and select decode, or you can manually select. In this case, we will manually select the vehicle. We'll say this is a 2020 Ford. We're going to say this is also a Mustang. It's a GT trim level, and it's a two-door coupe. If there's only one body type available for that particular vehicle, it'll automatically populate. If there are options, that will need to be manually selected if you're not doing a VIN decode. This is required so we can access the correct database. A lot of variables, particularly with pickup trucks and vans. So you'll want to make sure we have that selected as well. If you fail to select any of these mandatory fields to access the database, when you get to the Add Parts page, there'll be a small admonishment at the top that will remind you to come back and select to access the database. But in this case, we've got everything we need to be able to write the estimate. There's more information that can be added to this in Section 2, engine, transmission, drive type, paint codes. Down below in the vehicle details, you can enter your mileage, estimated value if you're concerned that it's potentially a total loss. You can enter in the license plate manually down here as well. And then down in Section 4, we have our point of impact. There are several ways to enter this data. We can use the interactive exploded vehicle diagrams. In this case, we'll say that it was a front impact and that it affected also the left front side of the vehicle, and those have been selected. You can also select from the drop-down different options for the point of impact, as well as you can enter a custom note on the point of impact here. But none of this is mandatory to access the database. This is just additional information that can be entered on the vehicle. That since we have our year, make, model, trim, and body type, we can now proceed to writing the damage estimate. At this point, we're going to want to navigate to the Add Parts page. On the Add Parts page, there are several controls on here. You'll notice our action. This is what we will be doing to the part for the damage entry. And it defaults to replace, but there are several options in here on what you might specifically be doing. We have a part source. If you're replacing parts, you can select to add the factory part or do an aftermarket search, for example. And then we also have our left and right side indicators, which will dictate, for example, if you're on a fender, when you select the illustration, whether you wish to enter the left or the right fender. We also have another control that is very convenient, and the left and right side can be controlled by your mouse buttons. So in this same example for a fender, if I were to select the fender with the left mouse button, I would be indicating that it was the left fender. If I was to select it with the right mouse button, we would be indicating that it was the right fender that we were making the entry on. Okay, let's go ahead and make some damage entries. In the Select a Section drop-down, we're going to select front bumper. The parts are sorted in this drop-down where the top of the list is the front of the vehicle, the bottom of the list is the back of the vehicle, This will help you locate the parts sections quickly. We'll go ahead and select front bumper. And in this illustration, you'll notice that number 1 is the bumper cover. When I hover over this reference number on the right side of the screen under part details, you'll get a little snapshot with details about this part to ensure you have selected the correct reference number. Here we see it is the front bumper cover. The top line will show that there are multiple part numbers, meaning there are variables for this bumper cover. So once we select this to replace it, we'll get a multi-parts pop-up. This is going to allow you to look into the comments section and select the correct bumper cover for this vehicle. We'll say in this example that it is the GT without the performance package. If you are searching for aftermarket parts and there's multiple parts available OEM, you'll get the same pop-up. And once you've selected the correct bumper cover for this application, then the system will search the aftermarket database for a match to that exact bumper cover. We'll go ahead and add this to the list. And then we'll see that our paint options pops up. In this case, we need our standard refinish allowances, which is our base coat, and our clear coat, which has already been selected. So we'll go ahead and select the OK button at the bottom of this pop-up. The damage entry is then made, and the next thing you'll notice, if it's applicable, is you'll get your overlap recommendations. In this case, we do want to overhaul the front bumper cover, so we'll accept all overlaps. And then we'll get a pop-up for our Pro Advisor recommendations. These are recommendations for necessary and customary additional charges that won't be located inside the vehicle's database. These are based on the panel that you're working on and the type of work you're doing to it, whether it's repair, replace, refinish. You'll get specific recommendations based on that operation type to that panel. Inside the Pro Advisor rate profile in this account, we've already selected hazardous waste removal and flex additive to be pre-selected, so you won't have to highlight them to add them to the estimate. And if you need to add any additional items from the recommendations, simply left-click on them. In this case, we'll say we do want to clean the vehicle for delivery, and it's now highlighted. To add these to the estimate, we'll select the Accept Selected button at the top of the pop-up, and those will be added to the estimate. These recommendations will be sorted with that section that they apply to so that anyone reviewing the estimate will understand where the charges were derived from. Next, we're going to go over to our section drop-down, and we'll go to front fender, and we'll be looking for the front fender sheet metal section. And we're going to say we have some damage on this fender, which is reference number 1. We're going to go up to our action buttons and select repair. No need to worry about the part source on a repair. Part source is only applicable to a replacement operation. So we're going to come down, and we need the left fender for this repair. So I'm going to left click on that number 1 reference number, indicating it's the left fender. And then we'll come down and we'll say that it is the aluminum GT model, and we'll select that. Then we'll get our repair options pop-up box. In this case, we'll say there's a 2-hour dent in this fender. We'll enter 2 hours there. If we need to R&I the panel we're working on, you can select this box right below the repair time field and include the R&I with this operation. In this case, we'll say we do not need to. We'll come down to our paint options, and due to the location of the damage in this example, we'll say we do need to add edging time. So we'll select the include box directly below that field. Then we'll select the OK at the bottom of the pop-up. Now we'll get a new set of recommendations based on a repair to the fender, and we're going to want to cover car for overspray, and we are going to want color tinting in this example, and we're going to say we're going to go ahead and color sand and buff this fender. I'll add that to the recommendations and then select the Accept Selected button at the top of the pop-up. Now we have those entered in there. We'll say in this example also that we wanted to add a front end alignment, so we can go over to the left side of the illustrations and look for the Add Manual button. This will take us to the Add Manual page. In this example, in section 1, Add a Charge, we're going to the Select a Preset Charge drop-down. Preset charges are additional charges that may be necessary, and those will be included in your rate profile. You can make additions to them and edit them to get your correct regional charges entered into those. We're going to say in this example that we want an alignment, a two-wheel alignment. So we'll come down in our list and select that. We're going to go ahead and add that now. And we now have our two-wheel alignment on here. We're going to say in this example, this is all we need to complete this estimate. We have two options to print. At the top of the page, we have a quick print link. And you can also navigate to the print page. On this page, estimate will be pre-selected, as that's the most common thing that's generated from here, although we do have many other reports that can be chosen to print. We'll go ahead and say, in this case, we have everything we need. We're going to go ahead and just select the Generate button. By default, it's going to be your basic estimate print. No additional changes are needed. We just hit the Generate button, and a version of the PDF estimate will be generated. And you'll see on here that all the information that we entered is on the estimate. Once you've completed this, you have a few options here that we'll cover in additional videos. We do have a Send Estimate page that allows you to email the estimate directly out of the system to the customer, the insurance company, whoever it may need to go to, along with a texting option that you can include that estimate with as well. Once you've completed the estimate, select Close Estimate, and you'll return to the Open Estimates page where you can create a new estimate or edit or review already existing estimates. This concludes our instructional video on how to create a basic estimate in your ProEstimator account by Web-Est. Thank you for your interest in ProEstimator, and thank you for being a Web-Est customer.